to the 7th poem in your book, The Trees by Adrian Rich. Now let's know first about the poet before we move on to get to the depth of the poem. Adrian Rich, in full, Adrian Cecil Rich, born in 1929 and passed away in 2012 in California, was an American poet, scholar, teacher and critic whose many volumes of poetry trace a stylistic transformation from formal, well-crafted but imitative poetry to a more personal and powerful style. So yes, her poem had a lot of style in it, and we shall know once we go through with this poem. So as always, I shall be reciting this poem and then we shall go towards the figures of speech, the rhyme scheme and the explanation. Now while I am reading, you need to remember your task, and your task is always look for the rhyme scheme, yes, and then understand the poem as well, line by line, what you get according to your mind process, your thought process, and then let's see if it matches with the poet. So let's move on. The trees inside are moving out into the forest that was empty all these days, where no bird could sit, no insect hide, no sun bury its feet in shadow. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. All night the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves strain toward the glass, small twigs stiff with exertion, long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof like newly discharged patients, half dazed, moving to the clinic doors. Now these are your first two stanzas. Can I ask you the rhyme scheme? So whenever you want to, find out the rhyme scheme, what do? We look at the last word of every line. And if you have a rhyming pattern, then we have the rhyme scheme. So let's go through. Forest, days, sit, hide, shadow, nights, morning. There's no rhyming pattern at all. In that case, what do we call the poem? Yes, it is a free verse, right? Because there are no rhyming words at the end of every line, right? Same thing here. Work, cracks, floor, glass, exertion, roof, patience, moving, doors. So this poem is a free verse. Like I have always mentioned to you, here it is a free verse, but when it comes in the form of, a question where you have the comprehension, poem-based comprehensions, in that case, when you are asked, you should be able to identify, right? So see, getting these concepts clear is not just for this poem, but yes, it is like you have to have the concept in your mind. So any poem comes from anywhere, any book, you are all set. Yes, that's the logic behind all this. So let's get our concepts clear, which is way more important. Moving further to the next two stanzas. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda, writing long letters, in which I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. The night is fresh. The whole moon shines in a sky still open. The smell of leaves and lichen still reaches like a voice into the rooms. My head is full of whispers, which tomorrow will be silent. Listen, the glass is breaking. The trees are stumbling forward into the night. Winds rush to meet them. The moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. It's beautiful if you really, okay, so we do not take this thing very literally. The tree is breaking and, from the veranda and through the window. Poems are generally all about metaphor. Yeah, they're talking of actually something else, which we shall find out in the upcoming slides. So yeah, let's move on. We all noticed it's a free verse, so there's nothing to talk about the rhyme scheme. Now let's head to the theme of the poem. The poem, The Trees by Adrian Rich, shows the conflict between man and nature. Now see, this is what it is based on. Like I told you, it is, you cannot take the literal meaning of the words there. So what are they trying? What is the hidden version of it? It shows the conflict between man and nature. With the growth and development of society, human beings have used nature for their own benefit and caused a lot of harm to it. Now, this is an undoubtedly, what do you say, a proper fact, must say that. In order to use natural resources like forests, minerals, etc., men have forgotten the importance of nature. Well, it is very truly stated. We have, haven't we? Let's look back how we had forests, how we had so many trees around. There was, it was so beautiful with the nature widespread in front of you. But today, what do we come across? Unless you go to villages or, hill stations, you will find the trees, you will find those scenic views out there. But do we find those in the cities? We don't find them. Why? Because they have all been cut down. The trees have been cut down, the roads have been laid, buildings have been constructed. What has happened? We have actually played with nature. We have destroyed it to the full. The poet wants to give the message that the presence of a few trees inside our homes does not become equal to nature. It is a very false idea of nature. We do plant trees, maybe, those who are living in bungalows or even buildings, you have the gardens, you plant trees. But he says that's just very minimum. You cannot equal that to the trees in the jungle. Real nature is outside, in the forest that we have destroyed. We have brought trees here, but then we are also destroying forests where trees are in abundance. There are so many. So yes, you need to make sure that this does not continue to happen. And we have been, saving trees, growing more trees. The trend is gradually changing. The trees in the speaker's house want to break the walls of the house and move to the forest, which has become empty. Now here, what are they trying to symbolize? See, here we can also talk of women. Now this is a symbolizing, they're symbolizing women here. It's metaphor. Who have actually been recharged and now want to move out into the open and get the primary purpose. Yes, the birds can sit again on their branches. The insects can hide there and the sun rays can disappear under the shadow of the trees. So you see, there are these three things which are getting affected. Why? Because of the absence of the trees. So what does it say? The birds can sit again on their branches. So right now they have nowhere to sit because there are no trees. The insects can hide there. The insects always hide in those branches. And the sun rays can disappear under the shadow of the trees. So you must have seen, if you are a nature lover and if you have really observed it, when the sun rays fall onto the ground, they come through the trees. So where the shadow comes, you don't have the sun rays. That's the reason we find, shadow under the trees. When it's very sunny all around us, we try looking for the shade under the trees so that the sun rays don't reach us. The poem tells us how the trees want to break free from the walls that humans have put around them. See, they are speechless. They cannot speak, right? But yes, they're trying to tell you that this is not the place where we belong. We belong in the forest. That is where we love to grow, to live in abundance and go out in the forest. This is what we are looking at. So this is something that the poet is trying to bring to our notice. Quite often, things like this go unnoticed because we are so distracted in the rat race that we all are that we don't even think about all this. So these things need to be pondered upon. Yeah. Now, here is your rhyme scheme. What was it? We already discussed. Yes, it's a free verse. Then you have enjambment. Now, these are the poetic devices. Practice of running lines of poetry from one to the next without using any kind of punctuation to indicate a stop. Now, enjambment are the running lines. They come from they begin on the first line, they continue without a pause, without a punctuation. They do not, any punctuation does not indicate a stop, so it is a running line. Personification. A thing or abstraction is represented as a person. Now, what do you mean by this? Like we've already said it, here an inanimate object, a non-living thing is given the quality of a human, right? This is where we say that that thing, that abstract thing or probably a non-living thing has been personified. It has been given the quality of a human. Anaphora, repeating a sequence of words at the beginnings of neighboring clauses, as in the lines begin with the same word, right? It is a sequence of words, it's the same word coming, the line is beginning with that same word throughout. So in that case, it is anaphora. Imagery is author's words created a vivid mental picture or physical sensation. Now here imagery is when you are using your senses. Yes, you are using your senses and you are creating that picture in your mind as you are reading that poem. So in that case, those lines are creating images in your mind. They are giving you some mental pictures. So let's move further to the words. Maybe there are certain difficult words which you need to know, and then of course we will move on to the explanation line wise and also the poetic devices used. So let's move on. The first 7 lines we are talking about. The trees inside are moving out into the forest that was empty all these days, where no bird could sit, no insect hide, no sun bury its feet in shadow. What do you mean by bury here? Cover something so that it is not visible. You know, you bury something, you put it in, like, you know, we bury, dead bodies, they are religions who do that. So in that case, we cover it, yeah. So that's bury. Its feet in shadow. The forest that was empty all these nights, it was vacant, it was hollow, it was missing. It was absolutely empty, nothing there. Will be full of trees by morning. So yeah, we've got the thing of the words here. Now let's move on to actually what these lines are telling us. The speaker of the poem observes that the trees in his house are moving outside into the forest, which has been empty for a long time. Now that forest has been really empty since a very long time. It is important to understand that the trees are not actually moving. Now, it's not even possible, right? The trees don't move. This is what I told you. They're trying to tell you the intensity, the desire. But it has been used as an imagery by the poet to show the destroyed forests and the false nature that humans have tried to keep in their houses. See, we do grow a lot of plants. There are many people who do gardening, who do kitchen gardening. We do that. But eventually, the best part, these plants and these trees can grow are actually in the forest. The forests are going on being, cut down. They are being destroyed. And we feel by planting trees, plants at home or trees around your house, you are doing something great, but that's not the case. Of course, that does help to a certain extent, but yes, you need to make sure that it is not about false nature. It is about the actual forests. Yes? Since the forest outside was empty, no birds could sit on the branches of the trees, no insects could hide in the trees, and sunlight could never disappear under the shadows of the trees. We already discussed this. We said, so because of the absence of the trees, see, you need to understand when you have questions based on the lines, questions like this, or you even have extracts, you have lines given and you are, questions based on that, you need to understand what is the line actually trying to tell you and answer accordingly. So this explanation shall do exactly the same. So when they're talking about absence of trees, what are they telling you? What are the problems that will occur? The birds will not have branches to sit on. The insects will not have trees to hide. And the sunlight, the sun rays will not disappear, in the shade of the trees. Because it'll be open, so they have nothing. It's just totally open. They have no place to sit or hide. The speaker feels that the empty forest will be full of trees by the next morning. So what is it trying to tell you? Here he is saying, right now I can see these trees are ready to break free. They are just trying to move away and they want that open space. They want to fulfill their desire. So yes, let's see further. What is it talking about when we are talking of full of trees by the next morning? But before we move further, let's talk about the poetic devices used in these 7 lines. Personification. No sun bury its feet in shadow. Now here we are talking about the sun burying its feet. Yeah. Now the sun is not human. The human quality has been given to the sun and it has been personified. So it is personification. Enjambment. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. Now what did we say about enjambment? We said they are running lines. See, let's always have some keywords, with every figure of speech so that we understand, we know better. We don't have to refer to the definitions again and again. So enjambment, running lines. Enjambment, continuous lines. You can just keep those words in your mind so that you understand it better. And the moment you see there is no punctuation, there's no punctuation giving you a pause or a stop, you need to understand that that is enjambment. Yes? So here it is. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. So we have, it is a continuous line. There is no punctuation, no pause. Then we have anaphora. Anaphora, if you remember, what was it? It was repetition of the word in the beginning of the line. Okay, repetition of the same word. So this is beginning with no. No insect hide, no sun bury its feet in shadow. So in that case, that is anaphora. Talking of imagery, the trees inside. Now, while I am reading, you can see the thing is happening, that scene is coming into your mind. You are using your senses, your scene is coming. The trees inside are moving out into the forest. So you can literally visualize that thing happening. So yes, it is imagery. Yeah, clear by now? Good. Let's move further to the next set of lines. All night the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks. Disengage as in get free. They want to break free from, they want to break themselves free from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves strain towards the glass. What do you mean by strain? They make a lot of effort. You really strain yourself to complete some project. You are putting in a lot of effort. Small twigs stiff with exertion. Twigs are the topmost part of the branches. The small last towards the end, the tapering ones. Yes, those are twigs and they are stiff with pressure. Exertion as in pressure. They want to break free. Long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof like newly discharged patients. Boughs are the large branches. Shuffling is they're just trying to just get free. You see how you shuffle things, you shuffle books, you shuffle cards. So they are trying to, they're shuffling under the roof. They're trying to just get through there. Like newly discharged patients, patients who are ready to go home. Half dazed as in half asleep. So if you look at patients when they are through their treatment and they're ready to go home, but because of some medication they are not that fresh, not that active, not that enthused, they are pretty weak, yet to regain their strength. So when they walk towards the clinic door, they are actually half asleep, half conscious. They are not fully conscious. Moving to the clinic doors. So let's see what these lines are actually telling us. It seems like the trees work silently in the night in order to complete their mission of getting free from the boundaries of the house. So it is at night when these trees keep shuffling, they're trying to actually execute what they want. But they're doing it so silently, and they want to complete their mission of breaking free from the boundaries of the house. Therefore, they work all night to free themselves through the cracks on the veranda floor. They're trying to find every space they can to break through them and break loose, go away. The leaves of the trees try very hard to put a lot of pressure on the glass so that they could break it. Now, here what are they trying to tell you? The leaves are trying to break, they're going to, planning to go through those windows. So they're trying to push hard really so that they can break the glass and move out. The small twigs have become very hard due to applying so much pressure to free themselves. The small twigs, now they're totally under pressure. I told you the top part of the branches, right? Those are the twigs. Now they have become very, very hard. They become stiff. They've got too much pressure on them. Why? Because they are applying that pressure to free themselves. The larger branches of the trees, the boughs, that have shrunk because of being inside the walls and under the roof. They are inside those four walls. They cannot grow beyond it, right? And they are under the roof. They need to touch the skies. So they need their open space where they cannot grow much. Yes, it is limited. They have a boundary. They have the roof, they have the walls. So they don't have the entire space to themselves. They try to move slowly from there and look like newly discharged patients from a hospital who become half shocked on coming to the outside world. So when you are there, see, it's a very common thing, like God forbid if any one of us has actually, been in the hospital for quite some time. And then when you step out, you feel so different. You feel like, wow. That wow factor comes. You feel so good about it. So this is what they're trying. When the trees will actually break loose through those windows or, through the veranda cracks, when they come out, the world will be like beautiful for them. So this is what they're trying to tell us. They're trying to move slowly from there, and they look, he's given a resemblance. He's comparing the patients to those trees which are trying to break free. The patients who actually are longing to get back home. Because obviously the atmosphere hospital is, how we never want it, So he's comparing that to those patients who are just, who have got discharged from the hospital and are ready to get back home, but they are, in their half consciousness. They are maybe due to medication or whatever, right? Whatever the suffering they've gone through, probably they are weak, less of strength, all because of it. So coming to the poetic devices in these lines, enjambment. Now you look at this, before I read it, you read it to yourself. Do you find a pause, a punctuation? No. So enjambment. And what is the key word for enjambment? Continuous line or running lines. So the leaves strain towards the glass, small twigs stiff with exertion, long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof like newly discharged patients, half dazed. Now here comes the pause. There is no other pause. So yes, in that case, these lines are enjambment. Simile, like newly discharged patients. You're talking about the leaves, you're talking about the trees, the branches. When they break out into the open, they will be like newly discharged patients. Now this word like should tell you that it is simile. So when there is a comparison, between two, you can talk like here we are talking about the trees and the patients, right? And the word like has been used. In that case, it is a simile. If the word like or as wasn't used, then in that case, it would have been a metaphor. So metaphor and simile, the only difference is the words like and as. So if you have any one of these words, it becomes a simile. If you don't have them, in that case, it becomes a metaphor. That's the difference between the two. Personification, small twigs stiff with exertion, long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof. Now here, twigs stiff, boughs shuffling. So don't you think a human quality has been given to these inanimate ones? Right? When you are giving those human qualities, here the twigs have been personified and here the boughs have been personified. So in that case, it is a personification. That's about it. Moving to the next set of lines. I sit inside, doors open to the veranda, writing long letters in which I scarcely mention the departure. Scarcely as in hardly, barely. And departure, exit. I mention the departure as in the exit of the trees. Of the forest from the house. The night is fresh, the whole moon shines in a sky still open. The smell of leaves and lichen still reaches like a voice into the rooms. Lichen are the crusty patches on the tree trunks. You know, when you look at the trunk of a tree, you find those patches, those crusty patches, they are called lichens. Yeah, it is CH, but the pronunciation is kin, lichen. See, there are many words which we need to understand. Right now, of course, nothing is happening orally. I mean, for you, you are going to write it down. But at the same time, you should be aware. You should be updated about the pronunciations as well. And these are words which can be used often. So it's not that you will never use them. So you can definitely look at the lichens of a tree. In fact, you can share it with your friends as well, those who don't know. Moving further to the explanation, the speaker, who could be the poet herself, sits in her house writing long letters, the doors of which open to the veranda. So where she is sitting, she's sitting in a house and the doors, they open to the veranda. We know what's a veranda, right? The open space outside the house. But yes, it is attached to the house. That's a veranda. Yeah. She hardly mentions in her letters about the trees that are moving out to the empty forest. She's talking about them there inside, that they are imprisoned inside those four walls, but she is not mentioning that they actually moved out. She is not talking about the departure. It is a full moon night where the moon is shining in the open sky and the night is very fresh, just like she has mentioned in her lines. The poet can smell the leaves and lichens coming from the trees that reach her like a voice. So she can get that fragrance. Those leaves also do have a certain fragrance. And the lichens as well. Try going close to the trees and you will get it better. So yes, you can smell the leaves and the lichens coming from the trees that actually reach to her like a voice. Like a voice saying that, let us loose, break us free. We do not belong here. We belong to the forest. So let us go. So, she's getting those whispers. She's getting those sounds. That's what she is trying to, actually connect. That's how she's doing it. When I talk about the figures of speech in these lines, you have alliteration. It's long letters. Now, what is alliteration? Alliteration we have always seen in our other poems as well. It is the repetition of the first letter, right? Mostly which is a consonant. So if you see long letters, l, l, it's long letters. Sky, still, s, right? So this is your alliteration when you have it in the same line. Talking of enjambment, again, enjambment means continuous lines, running lines, good going. Doors open to the veranda, writing long letters in which I scarcely mention the departure of the forest from the house. No pause, no punctuation. So yes, they are running lines, enjambment. Imagery. Now, while I'm reading these lines, see what's going on in your mind. The night is fresh. Can you feel that? Can you actually visualize that? The whole moon shines in a sky still open. The smell of leaves and lichen still reaches like a voice into the rooms. So while I was reading, we could actually visualize that, couldn't we? Right? In that case, it is imagery. So this is how we use this figure of speech. Going further to the last set of lines, the last stanza. My head is full of whispers. You know what's a whisper? Low hushing voice. You know, you whisper you don't want someone else to hear, so we whisper. Which tomorrow will be silent. My head is full of whispers, which tomorrow will be silent. Listen. She's asking you to be attentive. Carefully listen. The glass is breaking. The trees are stumbling forward into the night. Winds rush to meet them. The moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. Now, what do you mean by the trees are stumbling forward? They are walking unsteadily. You know, when you, children, how do they walk? You know, when the children who are actually learning to walk, yes, toddlers we call them. They walk, they fall, they walk, they fall. So yes, that's how she is describing the trees. They are stumbling forward into the night. Winds rush to meet them. They hurry. As soon as these trees are out, there's nice strong breeze blowing. So it's very beautifully put that the winds rush actually to meet them. The moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. What do you mean by flash? It shines. The pieces are actually shining now in the crown on the top area of the tallest oak. Oak, we know, is the name of a tree, right? So we've got these words. Now let's see how they're fitting into the lines and what do they tell us. The speaker listens to the sounds coming from the leaves and the lichens of the trees. These sounds will not be there in the morning, as the trees will move out to the forest in the night and will not be in the house by morning. Now, right now, the poet, the speaker can actually hear. You know, you can hear the voices of the leaves and the lichens. But as the poet says, that once these trees move out, these leaves, these trees, they move out into the forest, everything will become silent. There'll be no voice, there'll be no whispers, there'll be no fragrance at all. Now the speaker can hear the glass breaking. Now comes that moment where the trees are actually moving out. So that's the description. Now the speaker can hear the glass breaking due to the efforts of the twigs, the topmost part of the branches. As the glass breaks, the trees hurry outside, and in doing so, they fall on each other, they stumble and get struck at different places. They are actually, stumbling, they're just running ahead, they're going wild to break free. As the trees go in the open, it seems like the wind is moving fast towards them to meet them. It seems. Now, it's not that the wind actually comes because they have come. The wind is always there. But yes, it actually seems, just as the trees have gone and set themselves, the wind moves around them to meet them. The tall trees can finally stand straight as they are free. Now, the tall trees could not be really tall because they had the roof. There was an obstacle for them. Right now, they are out in the open skies, and yes, that's the reason they can grow nice and tall. They are so tall that they have broken the moon into pieces like a broken mirror. The mirror, it's a full moon night. Remember, that's what they mentioned. It's a full moon. You can see the full moon. But now, because the trees are nice and tall, so you can see that you can feel like if you're looking from down, if you look at the moon, you feel that it has broken into fragments. Why? Because the trees, the branches of the trees are actually, blocking that full moon view, and you can now feel that as though it has broken into different fragments. It is actually spreading out there. It's coming in between you and the moon. So you feel it like that. You can't see the whole moon. They are so tall that they have broken the moon into pieces just like a mirror. The moon now sits like the crowns on the heads of the tall oak trees. It's literally there like a crown on them, at the top of them. Again, the use of moon is an imagery to show that between the ground and the sky stands the trees, And one can only look at parts of the moon and not the full moon from under the trees. Yes, I told you, those branches are coming in between. So when you're standing there on the ground and you're looking at the sky, you're looking at the full moon, those branches are giving you that effect that it has been broken into pieces, into fragments. That is how you feel, right? So what are you actually trying to get out of this? That it's the conflict between man and nature. We got that, right? We also had the metaphor where sort of women who are there inside are actually trying to break free and move out in the open. And the life of mankind, of the humans, it is trying to, they're going to try and set their spaces there, right? Main is we need to be careful. We cannot take nature for granted. Please remember that. You dare not do it, because eventually it is the nature that helps you through many things. They provide us with so much. So if you are going to cut it down and get all the fake things and add to the pollution, remember, trees attract rain, right? So there will be shortage of water. There will be we all know the problems once, because that's the reason we have this conservation of forests. So yeah. Okay, so here you have the moon is compared to a mirror. Now here if you see, when we are talking, the moon is broken like a mirror. So the moon is being compared to a mirror with the word like. I told you like and as. These are the two words which tell you about simile, right? And that brings us to the end of this beautiful poem where we learnt a very good lesson. Remember, nature is not a place to visit. It is home. It is your very own home. Just like you take care of your home, this is how we need to take care of our nature. What we are doing to the forests of the world is but a mirror reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another. Chris Masser says, what are we doing to the forest? We are doing exactly, this is a mirror reflection, that this is the same thing what we are doing to ourselves and to one another. We are destroying. And nature is our home. We dare not destroy it. We better make sure that we really continue to take care of them and not confine them, not imprison them in our four walls, in the four walls of our houses or the roof. Give it space. Let them have their open space. Just like you and me, we both need space. This is the trend these days. You ask any youngster, oh, I need my space. Why? You need your space to be with yourself. Likewise, it is the nature. The nature also needs that space. So yes, keep giving that space to the nature and to each other, and continue to watch and learn.